You've been seeking answers from every dermatologist, doctor, and all over the internet, wondering what on earth this unbearable skin issue is. You know something's up, and you've been suffering and silenced for far too long. This podcast is going to bring awareness to the brutal reality that is topical steroid addiction and withdrawal syndrome. It will give you practical mental and physical tips to help you along your journey and provide you the strength you need to push through each day. You'll hear from real people battling this illness, as well as experts in the field, and I'm also going to share with you what's happening as I battle and conquer TSW. You are not alone, you're not crazy, and you will heal. If there's one thing I know, it's that anyone going through this hell is a warrior. My name is Jennifer Powers, and I welcome you to TSW Journey to Healing. Well, welcome, Szilvia, to the show. I am so excited to have you on as a guest of this podcast and discuss all things eczema and TSW, and we can bring that awareness. So thank you so much for taking the time and being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's just kind of get right into it. So we met obviously online. We met in our support group, the Eczema Facebook group, as mutual struggling members of, or I should say warriors, let's say that, let's be positive here, of this terrible, awful condition that we've had to experience and make a part of our life. So Szilvia, why don't I just turn it over to you and just briefly, give us your backstory, your background, and explain to the audience kind of who you are and what your story is.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Szilvia Molnar, and as mentioned, I had to go through this trauma, I say, as many people are going through as we speak. I'm one of the lucky ones that got out of it, and the way it all started, as probably with everybody else, I had eczema, just normal eczema. Let's call it normal, which is not normal anyway, but just the eczema. And I had it as a child, so very early on, maybe even when I was already like a baby. So I don't recall, but I think my mother has told me that, even when I was a small baby, it started. And growing up, I had real bad eczema. I had season allergies, anything that comes with it. I even had asthma. So, I don't know if but these sort of diseases kind of hang out together. So, or they call the atopic diseases, right? Like eczema, asthma, allergies, all of this stuff. So I had it all. I had the whole spectrum. And it started to bother me more and more, and it just never went away. I had ups and downs and flare-ups and better skin days, but it was just always there. I just always had it. Up until my late 20s, when it got like really bad. I honestly think I went through a couple of months of topical steroid withdrawal without actually noticing that I'm doing it, because I just dropped the steroids for a while, and then the flare-ups just became insane, and I had it all over my body basically. Most typically, as everybody else, like arms, hands, neck, eyes, lips. And it just got really, really bad. And so at that point, I just felt like really hopeless, and I needed to find a solution to this. And this is when I guess, like most people, try and look for any solution. Obviously, I went through the normal routes, dermatologist, another dermatologist, this doctor, that doctor. I've done it all the creams, tried everything. And that's when I kind of turned to the internet, and I was like, I need to figure this out. And I heard about like topical steroid withdrawal, and my eczema was just getting out of control. And at that point, I decided I'm just gonna dive in. I'm gonna drop the steroid creams, and I'm just gonna do, and what come what may, I'm gonna do it. And this is when, hell broke loose. So I don't know if you want me to go into that at this point.
Yeah, I do. Well, so here's what, I want you to get into it. And I also want to share with the audience, you're from Switzerland, is that correct?
I'm originally from Hungary, but I've lived
Okay.
in Switzerland for 7 years now. I lived in London for a while too,
Oh, love
actually
London.
before.
Awesome. That is so awesome. So I wanted to point that out because obviously I'm based in the United States outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. And it blows my mind the people that we get connected to by mutually suffering through this and how it is all over the globe. I mean, every single one of us stretches far and wide. So I just wanted to point that out to the audience, anyone listening. And then, yeah, I do want you to get into it. I want you to, if you could share, you know, you said you were taking the steroids. I'm assuming you took the standard creams or oral steroids or topical steroids. And then is that when you discovered, what I want to know is, when did you finally realize, hey, this isn't just eczema, this is TSW? Like, what was that like for you when you realized that's what it was?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I never took oral steroids,
Okay.
luckily. So I was always on the topicals. But
Okay.
um, the problem with that, as we all know, that, you just keep using it, even though, you're not supposed to
Sure.
use it
Yeah.
for a long period of time, but there's nothing else. And
Yes.
there are also the immunosuppressants, but it just gives equally the same result. So
Yep.
you just get the same result. You suppress your immune system, whether it's topical steroids or whether it's immunosuppressant creams. Like, I've done it all. You
Hmm.
cannot tell me any cream that I've not tried.
Yep.
And then at some point, honestly, when I hit 30, that was it, when it all just stopped working. I think
Hmm.
probably my body was just resistant to this, because I've been suppressing my immune system for so long. For 30 years, I've been continuously suppressing my immune system with these creams, that it just didn't work anymore.
Yep.
And I was actually pushed into then this situation of trying to kind of quit cold turkey,
Hmm.
because it was just not working anymore. So I just stopped using it, and I thought, let's see what happens.
Gotcha.
And this is when it basically, like, eczema just spread like wildfire all over my body. And it wasn't just a little bit of rash, which sometimes was a lot of rash, but it just spread all over my arms, all over my body.
Yeah.
You could see day by day that the inflammation is spreading, and I had the rashes and everything. And this is when I realized something is off here. This is
Yeah.
not the usual stuff that
Right.
I usually see. And I started researching and researching. And this is when I realized that, okay, I must be going through
Right.
this, what everybody's talking about here in the support group. This must be it, because everybody's talking about the same things. When you have the red sleeves, I'm like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
have got the red sleeves.
Yeah.
I'm wearing them.
Right, exactly. I know. I remember the feeling myself. What was your initial reaction? Were you like were you shocked? Were you devastated? What were you feeling when you discovered that this is what it is?
I didn't know how bad it was going to get.
Yeah, me neither.
So I yeah, right. I saw some people suffering, but I was like, you know what? It will be fine. Let's see where this goes, because I knew for a fact that there was no way out of this. Like, I knew I was not going back on steroids, and there must be another way, and I need to find that other way. And I'm happy to talk about my way too, if you
Yeah.
want me to.
Yeah,
But
I definitely. Hmm.
so yeah, that was basically when I figured it out. I just knew I was going to go with it, and I was looking for a solution. I was looking for a way out of it, or surviving this. But I was very naive as well, of course. I knew it was going to be bad, but I could not have ever imagined what I was about to go through.
Yeah. And what year, tell me what, because you're now fully recovered. What year I want to know like how long about this whole process took for you from the minute that you realized, okay,
Sure.
I have TSW till the final, whatever it was. Cause I actually had a couple other interviews today and I was asking the same question saying, when did you realize I think I'm fully in remission? I'm good. I'm cured. I'm not cured, but I went through it and it's behind me now, because there's got to be like a certain amount of days or weeks or whatever where you're like,
Sure.
wow, I haven't had those symptoms, so I must be good. I'm done. So what was that like from the start to the finish time wise for you?
Yeah, so the start actually is a very clear cut for me because that was I stopped using steroids when I moved to Switzerland. So that was exactly 7 years ago, like seven years, a couple of months now. It
Okay.
was September, so it's a bit more than 7 years now.
Okay.
And the worst of the worst was around like 6 months ish, I would say. It was pretty bad at that point. Um, After a year, I was reasonably okay. I still had big flare ups and I still had the usual TSW symptoms,
Hmm.
but it was a way better. Like I could already function, I could live my life, I could do stuff, I could meet my friends and do and go to work and
Hmm.
do like get on with my life at that point. And when it was like finally like over where I felt like, okay, now I'm not going to fall back into like a huge flare, or nothing unexpected is ever gonna come my way because it's been quiet for a while. I think that was around 2.5, 3 years. 3 years.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so during that time, I mean, everybody, has different things that it's not going to necessarily, it's still up for debate. There's still a lot of research to be done whether or not we can speed up the recovery, that whole process, the healing process. But there are a lot of
Yeah.
people that do swear by good nutrition and diet changes, and I know that you're one of those people. So tell everybody what your list of things. I know you wrote them to me before, but tell everyone how that kind of came about, what you discovered, what you researched, and what worked, what you found that worked for you.
Absolutely. So, from the moment that I was rapidly declining and I was doing very poorly, I knew that I needed to support my body one way or another. So I wasn't just one of those people who just want to ride it out and comfort themselves. I just felt like I need my body to get whatever it needs so that it can survive this terrible thing.
Hmm.
And I started to research a lot, a lot, a lot. And I went through phases of this diet, that diet, all of
Yep.
the things,
Yep.
as most people do. But actually, I went into the research so deep that I've started studying nutrition. So
Mhm.
I decided I'm going to do this the right way because there's just so much information out there, right? And
Yeah.
and you just get so confused what is good for you, what is not good for you, and then you can swear by this, you can swear by that. But I wanted to figure out the truth. And I went to study nutrition, and I did that for the past 5 years. I have my diploma now, so I am a qualified nutritional therapist.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so I did this also during the time while I was doing TSW. And what I've learned from my studies and from my research is that obviously the main driver of TSW is obviously the inflammation that just comes about once you stop suppressing it. And then there's obviously super complicated. Eczema itself is a complex thing.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, TSW is even more complex because there's just so many things that can go wrong there and has already gone wrong, that to shift that imbalance back to balance in your body, you need to actually make extra efforts to do that. Bad
Yeah.
enough with eczema. Well, with TSW, it's like it's a disaster, right? There's just so many things out of balance in your body.
Yeah.
And while I say out of balance, is because nutritional therapy works with something called functional medicine, and
Yeah.
functional medicine is the one that looks at the areas of health. So it doesn't look at symptoms; it looks at the root cause of the disease, And it looks at several parts of the body, such as the digestive system or the detoxification system, all of these are interconnected.
Yeah.
And if one is out of balance, it's likely that something else is also out of balance, and you need to kind of gently balance everything back. And the way I did it was with diet and lifestyle. And to make it simple, which is because it's as I said, it's quite complex, and I don't think we have the time for me to kind of go into the details. But to make it simple, I think what you need to tackle is inflammation at its root, and you need to exclude those things that could fuel inflammation in the body,
Yeah.
which could be anything in your environment. You can think of loads of things, such as actually your furniture, even the air you breathe, the water you drink, the foods you eat, which can be the processed foods, which are super inflammatory, sugary foods, added sugar is what we're talking about. They're super inflammatory. Food sensitivities, which it can be anything for you, but the main two are usually dairy and gluten. These are the two that are super prevalent in people with eczema. If you try and remove this from your diet, usually you improve. And with TSW, it's the same sort of idea, that you need to try and work with the inflammation, remove everything that's inflammatory in your environment and in the foods and drinks that you eat, and flood your body with anti-inflammatory goodness, right? And that's the fruits, the vegetables, the herbs. And what lots of people, I think, where they make a mistake is that you try one thing. It's never going to be just one thing. It's never going to be the ginger tea. It's never going to be the celery juice that you drink. It's great that you do that, but that's not going to fix it. Unfortunately, there is no quick fix for this, because it's a complex, super serious problem.
I love everything you're saying, and it's helpful because in a couple interviews that I had just today alone, everybody can find themselves going through TSW with different backgrounds. And I say this, I'm like a broken record, but there's no such thing as one size fits all. Every single person is wired and built differently and comes into their condition of TSW based on, it came about for me because of my childhood eczema and all the use of steroid that I had for that. The person that I interviewed right before this, for example, didn't ever have eczema, but they had asthma. And so just different, we're all wired so differently, right? So and I agree with you, gluten and dairy, whenever I have omitted those from my diet for a decent amount of time, you do start to pay attention to your body. I was, one of those people that I was one of those lucky kids where, other than having eczema, I mean, I had a high metabolism. I ate whatever I wanted. I was a big junk food eater. I did all that, not knowing, and my mother and father, who are super amazing and so supportive, but diet and nutrition, a lot of the times is not, you go to a doctor, you go to a dermatologist, that's not their world, right? That's not their expertise. Their expertise is making you comfortable and giving you something to alleviate the symptoms, but not, like you said, with the functional medicine, that's not the root cause. So it can be that's why it can be such a prolonged, long journey. And for some people, it can last forever, which is devastating unless they really can figure out what it is that, you're speaking about. So what did you do? I know that you went gluten and dairy free. What else did you do specifically that you noticed if you stopped doing those things, maybe your symptoms got worse? What helped you the most?
In TSW, I did heaps of things. Like I did everything I could get my hands on. I did the gluten dairy free for sure, but at that point, because I was not sure at the time what was actually causing my issues, or I just wanted to make it simple for my body to figure it out. I for a while I went like almost everything free. Like
wow, that's hard.
Because yes and no, because there's always a group of foods that are causing the majority of the issues in people, like dairy, number one, number two, gluten, soy, citrus fruits, corn, these sort of things. And I try to kind of eliminate at least most of these for
Yeah.
a period of time, just to see what happens. Because
Sure.
I don't know if many of the listeners know, but actually to date, there is no gold standard method in terms of lab testing for food sensitivity. Yes, there are tests, but
Hmm.
those are actually very subjective. And the only way you can figure out whether you're sensitive to something or not, if you do an elimination diet, that is the only way to figure it out for sure,
Hmm.
whether you are sensitive to something or not. So I try to do that. I actually was lucky enough in Switzerland. There is a hospital which is built just on functional medicine, alternative medicine
Wow.
practices. So I was lucky enough to go there. So they did loads of stuff to me there. um, like from acupuncture to vitamin infusions, to what is super important actually as well to check if you are, which is a problem for many people, if your body is high on heavy metals. So I
Hmm.
also I was lucky enough to have this tested. I know this test is not available like in your GP office, and so you
Hmm.
may have to go another route, but it's very important to check. So I got detoxified of all the heavy metal that I was holding in my body.
Hmm.
That can cause issues, imbalances in the body as well. So I did that too. um, I was taking heaps of supplements because I was so deprived of nutrients.
Hmm.
I was basically so low on so many nutrients. I was taking probiotics, the usual ones for sure. I was
Hmm.
taking probiotics, vitamin D, um, B vitamins. I was taking vitamin C as well. I was taking herbs. So I had loads of stuff that I was giving my body to help it bounce back and just gently move it back into balance.
Hmm.
And I went, I think, once a month to the clinic to do some of the infusions, and they just looked at my nutrient status, and they would adjust something there if they had to. So
Those are
I had
yeah.
loads of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really good things. And you know what? People ask in our support group, all the time. They say things like, "Well, it just seems like I'm going to go through it no matter what anyway." But the truth is, like, you're not going to know unless you try, and it is overwhelming. I'm the first to admit it. When I first said, "Oh, giving up all those, when you eliminate all those things, it is hard." When I when I first made a list and it was no soy, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no this, no that. I was like, oh my gosh, what's left? you, you start to think like,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, what can I eat? Air and celery? Like, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? But you're right. It's just, if you take it step by step and just breathe and just one day at a time, it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming. It will at first because it's a whole lifestyle change, but I think it's important for people to realize, like, nothing is ever, it doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be a permanent. It's just like TSW
It's
is not
not
a
a
death.
permanent thing.
Right. And TSW is not your permanent state of being. It's something you're going to unfortunately have to go
No.
through. But in some kind of positive ways, like, you can find things like the heavy metal thing that you just said. I think that's so incredibly important. And if you didn't necessarily, maybe if you didn't have TSW, you might not even think to ever go get tested for that. And that's something that a lot of people should get
Yeah,
tested for, right? No matter what.
a lot of
Um,
people. Yeah.
exactly. It's in our environment. It's in the things we touch, what we drink. I mean, that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
super important stuff. One of the things that I don't think you did mention, but when we were chatting online before this, you mentioned that you were doing meditation. And I think although, I mean, your expertise now is fully in nutrition, which is amazing, there's still a huge mental health piece to this. So what did you learn to meditate during going through TSW, or was that something new for you, or is that something that you were always doing in your life before?
When you study nutrition, or when you study to be a nutritional therapist, I'm a UK a qualified nutritional therapist. So the way they have the training there, it's not just all about the diet. It's diet and lifestyle, and
Mm,
lifestyle covers many areas, including stress management, right? It's
Hmm.
super important. Stress, I knew from early on, was a huge driver in my eczema.
Oh, me
It
too.
was a huge, yeah, right.
Yep.
I remember when I quit my job, that was super stressful. A few months after that, I was eczema free and I was covered before, right? So it's
Wow.
super important. Like it was just so obvious, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, meditation has been a part of my life since I learned how important it is. And then that's sort of like, when I was going through TSW and I learned about all of these aspects of inflammation,
Hmm.
and stress was one of them. I had to look into this too. So I really did like, an overarching research of all the elements which I could help my body to bounce back, and this was one of them. And I got into it quite deep, actually, to the point that I went to a meditation sort of like retreat, and I learned to meditate, and I found tremendous value in it, not just for my eczema but and TSW, but for just everyday life. And I got into meditation and yoga practices. And I know we always say, like, yeah, you should meditate and you should do yoga, but it
Yeah.
really is important. Like,
Yeah.
it really is important. It really does work. It does work.
Yeah, I completely agree. Anything to relieve stress. I mean, there's none of us are going to get out of this life alive without being stressed at one point or another. And especially in
Yeah.
today's crazy world, like stress levels are at an all-time high. It's just for people like us that are prone to inflammatory conditions and things like this, it's so important to take control as best you can to manage that. So I totally agree with you. What do you think? What would you say? I mean, you said it was about 2.5 to 3 years, your whole from the beginning to the end. What do you think? I want to know what your lowest point was, and then what was the point where maybe you shifted and started to gain some hope and during that whole process.
Lowest point, I distinctly remember. And this I'm not sure if I'm okay to say this, but I'm pretty sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm not a suicidal person. I've never been. I've
Yeah.
always been like, I could never do that.
Yep.
But at some point, I was feeling so low, like I just couldn't bear it anymore. And I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, like, I just want this to go away,
Yeah.
and I just want out of this.
Yep.
And I knew it was stupid. I knew logically that it was stupid, and I had hope. I had like a little bit of hope and thinking, maybe, 5 years from now, I will think back and I'll think, oh, that was so stupid. And I do think back and I thought it was stupid, but I was just so low at the time. There's suffering so much. And I'm not sure people who don't go through this, they don't understand that
You're right.
this is unbearable. Like, it brings a normal person, happy person, who is absolutely not a suicidal type, to the point where I actually thought about it. I was
Yeah.
like, I just
I,
want out.
I'm with you. You're not alone in that. I get it.
So, but this is where the awareness comes in. People need to understand this is unbearable. This is suffering that is unbearable.
Yeah.
So that was my lowest point, definitely. And when I thought that the hope was coming into play, that was, I think, when I hit the about 6 7 month mark, because around 6 was the birth, and I was coming out of that, and I could see it. I saw healing happening, and then of course there was like another flare up, but it was, it just always started to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
And because I was getting to all the nutrition and stuff, I had a plan, and
Yeah.
this is what I usually talk to my clients with. That the worst thing about like having eczema and having TSW is that you're just completely feeling lost, that you don't have a plan. You feel
Right.
like this is going to go on forever. There is no cure because all you get is creams and stuff. And there is a way out of this, I promise you, because I've done it. And I'm not saying that I never get eczema anymore, because I do get eczema, because if I get stressed and I'm going through something serious and I eat junk food, I have it. It's not
Sure.
something, this is your weakest link,
Yeah.
in your body. But I can talk about why this is a good thing as well. But the thing is that I had a plan, and this is why hope springs eternal. And I
Yeah.
just felt like there is a way out of this. I feel like I've got enough information to make this happen, and I just continue on the path. And I know this is not as easy, because there is no quick fix, but I have a trajectory, and I'm just gonna follow that, and I'm gonna try not to fall off the bandwagon, and I'm just gonna keep going, and I hope that this is going to be successful. And I think this kind of plan that I had in my head, how to get my inflammation back on track, this is what led me to this success path.
Yeah, I think there's such great points. One thing that you said that you could expand upon, and I would love you to, is, you got to a point where healing took place and it happened, but then you're still not a stranger to eczema. It's not like it's impossible to ever come up. You said sometimes you get stressed, or maybe you ate junk food and it comes up, and that you could look at that like a positive spin. And I kind of think I know where you're going to go with this, but I would love for you to say to somebody, I love that you would say, explain that, like, how can you turn something like that into a positive spin?
Sure. So obviously for 30 years, I thought this was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I had to realize that actually this is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, which is kind of twofold. One, because I had to go through this absolutely horrendous trauma, and I come out of it. And now I know that I am basically capable of anything. And
Yeah.
this was the worst is over. And the other thing is just about the pure eczema side. So if you think about it, yes, this is something that you and I have, or people with eczema or asthma or something. This is something we have, and it's complex, and maybe you're doing a little bit something wrong. You're eating the wrong foods, and your environment, or your relationships are causing you stress, and then it is not all like happening to you. You are actually causing it to a certain degree, but
Hmm.
of course there are some genetic elements to this too. So we have to live with this, that we have this sort of in us, that if we are letting us go and letting us eat whatever we want, and not look after ourselves, this is what we're gonna get. You and I are gonna have eczema, right?
Hmm.
But the good thing about this, which I only thought about once I heard other stories in my environment, is that other people have other problems, and inflammation is actually the main driver of most chronic diseases.
Hmm.
And this is how your body is telling you that something is wrong. This is how
Yeah.
your body is screaming at you that you have inflammation, something has gone wrong. And this, I mean, not TSW, but eczema itself is a reasonably mild condition.
Yes.
Once you've gone through the TSW and you've got your eczema back, be happy, because that's how your
Right.
body's communicating with you. It's telling you you're doing something wrong, you gotta change. And other people may have more severe, more terrible problems
I, I
than
love
eczema.
I love that so much. And it's interesting hearing you say that, because I was telling my mom a few weeks back when I was having, I mean, I am in the TSW journey right now. I'm in the thick of it. But it's just way too important to me to, right when I got it, I said, all right, I have to bring awareness to this, but I wasn't really in the place mentally to be able to do that. And I'm not very super far along my journey, but it's just so important to me to bring this to light and share, just like it is for you as well. But one thing that I said to my mom was, I kind of think it's a huge I mean, listen, none of us are going to get away without having any kind of trauma in our life. So for us to have, like you said, I completely agree. This is the most horrible thing that I've had. It's probably one of the most horrible things for anyone to go through. I mean, and there's a whole list of diseases and ailments and things, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is that bad, like you said. And I'm glad to hear And I'm sure anyone listening is glad to hear that confirmation that, yeah, they're not, everybody feels like it's the end of the world and it's that bad, because it really is. It really is that terrible.
Yeah,
But it's one of those things where, you know, if you had another disease or some kind of issue in your body and there was no warning signs at all, imagine how heartbreaking and how sad that would be to then find out, you know, I have this and it's a horrible problem and it's too late. We're at least given our body is so amazing and so intelligent that we're getting all these warning signs. Like if there's something going on in my liver, if there's something going on internally, if there's some stress and it's attacking something inside our skin because of having eczema, it's going to bring it all to the surface. So we're like, okay, let's examine what is going on here. And it's like we get that warning sign, whereas other people may not. And that's, you
that's
know,
exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I completely
This
agree.
warning sign is golden. You
Yes.
gotta love your eczema.
I love that. That's gonna be the title of this episode. You gotta love your eczema. I love it. I love it. I mean, and you
And
know,
honestly, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so and on another note, it led me to the best thing in my life. Now, as a nutritional therapist,
Yeah.
I get to help people. I get to, I made it my mission
Yeah.
to help people and tell people you do not have to suffer. You really do not have to suffer. There is a way out of this. And
I
it
love
works,
it.
100% works. It works. I've got my method and it works. It just works.
What Sylvia, I'm just curious, what did you, before this came into your life, before you became a nutritional therapist, what was your occupation, or what was your life like before this?
So for a very long time, over 10 years, I worked in the financial industry. So I financial services industry. I was
Hmm.
in banking
Okay.
for a very long time. So I had an office job. I worked my way up to being senior management in large international banks.
Yeah.
And then I knew it's never, it's nobody's calling
Yeah.
to be an investment banker. And if that's your
Sure.
calling, that's your calling, whatever,
But it
you
wasn't
gotta do what
yours.
you gotta do.
Got it.
It was a mine for sure. It was a mine. And I always knew, for a long time I knew that I wanted to, my mission is to help people. I just didn't know how. And here we are.
Yeah.
Life just threw this at me.
And it's so, like, I say this all the time, but turning your mess into your message, which is exactly what I'm doing, is exactly what you're doing. Like, we can really only pour from a full cup. We can only pour into someone else's life when we have gone through the trenches, gone through the hard times, and then come out the other side to be able to share and teach and inspire and do all of those things. So this is something that I know we're both very passionate about. You have made it your life career now and get to work intimately with people, which is so, so, so powerful. So I guess my last question is, what words of wisdom or words of hope could you share with anyone listening right now, as to, you know, if they're feeling like they're at rock bottom and they can't carry on, or if they are maybe maybe they're close to the end of their journey, but they're so that PTSD is really, it's real, and they're scared to death that it's going to be a part of their life forever and ever, and they don't know how they'll handle that. What last pieces of advice or words of wisdom could you give to those people?
I think, if you're anyone like me, as I said before, you need to just make a plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. Just make a plan out of it all. How are you gonna make it happen? I know it's easy to just, wallow in our misery and just sit there and just feel sorry for ourselves, because I did that too. I felt really sorry for myself for a very long time.
Yeah.
But that actually doesn't help. It doesn't help. And yes, it's a terrible thing that you're going through, that I've gone through, that we all went through. But if you have a plan out of it, try and make one. Whatever, it can be like, um yeah, it can be nutrition, or it can be acupuncture, it can be just meditation. Whatever you think, just pick one, or pick a few, or pick something that you think you would enjoy doing, or you're interested in, it would help you, and would take your mind off just suffering, and just get on with it. Do your research, get into it, because help feeling like you're helping yourself is
Mm-hmm.
going to make you feel so much better, because you cannot, honestly, you cannot rely on the Western medicine in this sort of disease, because you only will get, what you will get is you will get more creams, right? We don't want more creams.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't want more creams because you're going off the creams. That's the point of TSW, right? So you're really not gonna get the help there if you're going to try and find it there. Of course, follow up with your medical doctor as much as you can, just so you keep everything in balance. I look at the other stuff. But since you can't get the creams, try and find a plan for yourself. And when you think that you hit the lowest of the low, just remember that there will be a day when you're really out of this. And I now scroll through, I often comment in the support group, because I know that, it's good to give encouragement and to help people. And then if I know something that I've gone through and helped me, I do that. And when I do that and I scroll through, I see people like pictures and suffering and cracked skin and all of this. And I tell you this, it's gone to the point that I've forgotten how bad it was. There will be a
Wow.
point when you have forgotten how bad it was, because I don't fully remember. It reminds me when I look at those pictures, but I think my mind just erased it because it was so
Yeah. It was so
traumatic.
traumatic.
But
Right. Right.
but there will be a time when you will not even remember how bad it was.
And see, like right now, I'm even sitting here like, wow, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people listening, a listener right now that's going like, yeah, right. I'll never forget this hell that I went through. But it's almost, just hearing you say that, it reminds me, I mean, I have a son, it's almost like childbirth, right? Like you go through hell, and then the second that it's over, you're like, you don't even, it's like,
Yeah.
how did I do that? How did I get through that? Right? Like it's trauma is interesting and we keep it in ourselves, but if it's bad enough, you can block it out. And so that's probably what happens a little bit. But I love that you're saying to leave people with your final notes as saying to make a plan, because the truth is there is so many things, so many parts of this that they are out of our control. But whatever you can control, even if it's just to keep your mind at peace, like experience some level of peace, experience some level of taking your mind off of the suffering and just getting in your body, in your head, in your mind, whatever, and just know that like if I want to meditate, I can control that, and that makes me feel good in the moment, even if it doesn't last you all day. If you can do little things like diet change or meditation or acupuncture, like you said, whatever is going to keep you like, okay, I have one more day that I got through this, and it makes it a little bit more bearable. That's what you got to do. So I love that advice.
Every little bit counts, every little bit. You would think it doesn't make a difference in the moment, or in the moment maybe, but not the next moment, but actually it does.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation, by studies, they show that it has long-term effects on your body. So if you get into the meditation routine, you can lower the stress levels, the stress
Mm-hmm.
hormones in your body for long term. So every little bit counts. Whatever you can do, just give it a go, and then it will add up. And you may not figure it out that this helped or that helped, but if you put all of the small efforts that you did for yourself together, it may actually cut your suffering short term.
Yeah, I love that. And you could use them like building blocks. If you just picked one thing, like you said, and you did that for a week or two, and then you wanted to add one more, it makes you feel like, okay, I can still function. It is still my life. And this doesn't define me, but this is a huge part of my story. And that's okay. That's going to just make me
I love that.
stronger. And yeah, I mean, it's true, right? I think sometimes we just take on the identity and we look at this like this is happening to us. What did we do wrong? When in reality, it's really happening for us. There's, like you said, and like I pointed out about the inflammation, it's a blessing to know that there is something wrong, as opposed to walking around and thinking your life is great and you're healthy. Come to find out there's something going on really wrong inside, but you didn't get any warning signs. So there's so much. I love this conversation. This makes me really this is a great positive spin. And you were right. You said, can I put a positive twist on this because I'm a success story? And I said, yeah, heck yeah, let's do that. So that was really awesome. You are so amazing. I'm so thankful that you came on the show. And I'm also so thankful for the work that you're doing and how you're going to help people, because good nutrition and just lifestyle and diet and all those changes, they can change someone's life. So you're doing amazing work. And I'm going to put in the show
Thank you.
notes, anyone who ever wants to, contact you and reach out, I'll put your social media and everything that'll be in the show notes. And I just want to thank you so much for spending the time and being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really an honor, and this is my mission, to bring awareness, to help people, because I've been through it, you've been through it, so we gotta stick together.
Absolutely,
We've
Sylvia.
got this.
Absolutely. We
We've
do. We've
got
got
this.
this. We've got this. Oh, well, I can't wait to follow along more of your journey and stay connected. But thank you very, very much. And we hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.